Greater than Boston. Winter, 1872. Parents whisper in fear. Children vanish from the streets. And when they're found, they're barely alive. Beaten, tortured, scarred forever. The monster hunting Boston's children isn't a man. It's a boy, a pale-eyed 12-year-old with a dead, milky white stare. This is the terrifying true story of Jesse Pomeroy, the boy who would become America's youngest serial killer. Tonight, we start at the beginning. Part 1. The Boy with the Marble Eye. Boston, Massachusetts. November 29, 1859. In a cold, cramped apartment in Charlestown, the cries of a newborn echo through the thin walls. His name is Jesse Pomeroy, and the moment his mother, Ruth Ann, holds him under the dim glow of a gas lamp, her heart sinks. One of Jesse's eyes isn't normal. A cloudy white film covers the entire pupil, a birth defect called leukocoria. It makes his gaze look almost lifeless, like a cloudy marble staring out of a doll's face. Neighbors will later call it the devil's eye. His father, Thomas Pomeroy, a hardened Civil War veteran, doesn't see a son. He sees a curse. He doesn't even try to hide his disgust. That disgust will grow into something darker, and far more dangerous. As Jesse grows, the whispers in the streets grow with him. Mothers pull their children close when he walks by. Kids chant cruel rhymes. Greater than, marble boy. Devil's child. They throw rocks. They spit. And every day, Jesse retreats further into himself. At school, teachers write him off as strange, unreachable. He sits alone at lunch, clutching worn dime novels, violent adventure stories full of gunfights, scalping, and torture. He doesn't just read them. He studies them, memorizes the methods of pain hidden in their cheap pages. But the real horror is waiting at home. Jesse's father has created his own private hell in a small, rotting woodshed behind the house. It's there that the beatings happen. First, Jesse strips down, naked, shivering in the cold. Then his father chooses the weapon. A thick leather belt, a horsewhip, always something that will tear skin. The beatings are slow, methodical. The old soldier swings until blood drips down his young son's back, spitting words that cut deeper than the leather. Greater than, you're worthless. You're nothing. You shouldn't have been born. His older brother, Charles, wants nothing to do with him. Sometimes Charles won't even share their bedroom, sleeping on the kitchen floor instead. The only person who shows Jesse any kind of warmth is his mother. After the worst of the beatings, she cleans his wounds and whispers lies. Greater than, they just don't understand you, Jesse. You're special, different. When neighbors report Jesse torturing cats and throwing their bodies into the Mystic River, Ruth Ann dismisses it as sadness, loneliness, never seeing the truth her son is practicing. By the time Jesse turns 12, something inside him changes. The pain, the shame, the loneliness, it all curdles into something else. Something darker. He starts watching children, not the kids who bullied him, but the small ones. The weak ones. He studies them like prey. Watches where they play, where they walk, where they're alone. And slowly, Jesse begins to smile when no one's looking. Because now, he knows. He knows how to get close. How to earn their trust. And soon, he'll show them the same pain the world gave him. December 26, 1871. Boxing Day. Families in Chelsea are still celebrating Christmas. Snow crunches underfoot as kids run through the narrow streets, their cheeks red from the winter wind. 4-year-old William Payne is one of them, playing alone outside his family's modest home. And that's when he sees him. A boy, maybe 12, his cap pulled low, his pale, milky eye glinting in the fading light. The boy smiles. Greater than, hey there, kid, wanna see something cool? This is only the beginning. Part 2. The Outhouse of Horror. Boston, winter of 1872. The city is frozen, quiet, but in the working-class neighborhoods, children still play in the narrow, snow-covered streets. None of them know that a predator is among them, and that predator is just 12 years old. Jesse Pomeroy had been planning his first attack for weeks. He studied 4-year-old William Payne like a hunter tracking prey. He knew the boy's routines, when he left the house, where he liked to play. He even rehearsed his smile in the cracked mirror of his bedroom, practicing kindness, learning to sound gentle and safe. When the time came, Jesse's pockets were full of penny candy and tiny toys he had stolen from local shops. He approached William slowly, smiling like an older brother. Greater than, "Hey, buddy. Wanna see something fun? I've got candy, toys. Come with me, I'll show you a secret place to play." William, sweet and innocent, never hesitated. He took Jesse's hand. Jesse led the little boy through the streets of Chelsea, his pale marble eye darting around to make sure no one saw where they were going. They climbed Powderhorn Hill, a desolate, empty place where no one went in the winter. At the top sat an abandoned outhouse, rotting wood leaning in the icy wind, surrounded by dead weeds and trash. It was perfect. Inside, the air was thick and sour with the smell of waste and decay. The only light came from cracks in the wooden boards. Jesse's voice changed. Gone was the friendly tone. Gone was the practiced smile. Now, his words were sharp. Cold. Greater than, "Take off your clothes." William froze, confused. His small hands trembled in the freezing air, but Jesse didn't wait. He pulled out a rope, the same rope he had hidden away for this very moment, and tied William's wrists tightly together. Then, with frightening precision, he looped the rope over a beam and hoisted the boy up so that he dangled in the center of the small, dark space. And then, the violence began. Jesse beat him with his fists. With a broken piece of wood from the floor. Blow after blow after blow. William screamed for his parents, for help, for anyone, but no one came. No one could hear him. Jesse didn't stop. Every cry, every sob, every desperate plea only fed him, fueled him. For the first time in his short, tortured life, Jesse Pomeroy felt powerful. But he didn't kill William. Not yet. Something in him, fear, hesitation, maybe just inexperience, stopped him from crossing that final line. When he was done, Jesse calmly untied the child, left him bruised and broken in the freezing cold, and walked away like nothing had happened. Hours later, searchers found little William barely alive. His skin was blue from hypothermia, his body covered in bruises. He would survive, but the boy who had lured him there had vanished like a ghost. The attack shook Chelsea to its core. Police were baffled. No witnesses, no footprints, no clues. And in 1872, the very idea that a child could do something so calculated, so vicious, was unthinkable. Investigators assumed they were looking for a grown man, a violent predator hiding in plain sight. But Jesse wasn't done. Over the next few months, 3 more young boys were lured to the same abandoned outhouse. Each one came back broken, if they came back at all. The survivors told nearly identical stories. A boy with brown hair. A strange, white, cloudy eye. A soft voice that turned cold the moment they were alone. And always, the same pattern. Promises of candy and games. The long, lonely walk up to Powderhorn Hill. The torture. The beatings. The humiliation. And Jesse was learning. With every attack, his methods became more organized. More sadistic. He forced his victims to strip in the freezing cold. He collected metal scraps and wooden boards to use as weapons. He began experimenting with pins and needles, pushing them into tender skin just to watch the way the children screamed. And then, the attacks turned even darker. Jesse started adding sexual violence, twisted acts that made him feel in control in a way nothing else ever had. He threatened his victims, whispering in their ears with that dead white eye locked on theirs. Greater than, "If you tell anyone, I'll hurt your family next." By spring of 1872, panic gripped Chelsea. The newspapers called the unknown predator, the boy torturer. The city offered a $500 reward for information, a fortune for working families. Parents locked their doors, kept their children indoors, and warned them. Greater than, "Don't talk to strangers. Don't look at anyone with a white eye." But still, Jesse hunted. Then, on July 20, 1872, something happened that would push him over the edge. His father, Thomas, discovered evidence of Jess's behavior, and snapped. Dragging his son into the woodshed, Thomas whipped Jesse with his horsewhip over and over until the boy collapsed, bleeding and barely conscious. Greater than, "You should never have been born," his father spat. Something broke inside Jesse that night. Whatever thin thread of restraint had kept him from killing, snapped. 2 days later, July 22, 1872, 7-year-old Johnny Bach became Jess's next victim. This time, the violence was worse. The torture lasted longer, the pain sharper, the rage boiling over. Johnny barely survived, but detectives could see it. This attacker was escalating. Something inside him had shifted. And then, the moment that could have stopped everything, but didn't. One summer morning, Jess's mother, Ruth Ann, sat at the kitchen table, reading the Boston Globe. There it was. A description of the boy torturer. Greater than a larger boy. Brown hair, one milky white eye. Her hands trembled as she lowered the paper. She didn't need to ask questions. She knew. Her son was the monster everyone in Boston feared. But instead of going to the police, instead of seeking help, Ruth Ann made a choice that would condemn other children. She packed their bags. Without a word to anyone, she moved her family across the Charles River to South Boston, convincing herself that distance and fresh surroundings would somehow cure her son. It didn't. Jesse wasn't a sad, misunderstood boy. He was a predator. And now, he had a new hunting ground. Next time, Part 3, The Move to South Boston, and the First Murder. Part 3 The Devil Moves to South Boston. August, 1872. The Pomeroy family left Chelsea quietly, slipping away without a word. Ruth Ann told the neighbors what they wanted to hear, that she'd found better work across the river in South Boston. That it was a fresh start. A chance for her strange, troubled son to be normal. But evil doesn't vanish with a change of address. If anything, the move made Jesse Pomeroy more dangerous. Their new home sat on Broadway Street, in a cramped tenement that smelled of coal dust and damp wood. Families packed into tiny rooms, children running up and down the hallways, shouting and laughing until late at night. It was noisy, chaotic, and the perfect place for a predator to hide in plain sight. And now, Jesse understood something terrifying, something his father's beatings had never taught him. His mother would protect him, no matter what he did. That realization gave him a new kind of confidence. A dark, unshakable power. South Boston was a fresh hunting ground. Nobody here knew his name. Nobody knew to keep their children away from the boy with the marble white eye. The first attack came just 2 weeks after the move. August 17, 1872. The beaches of South Boston were quiet that morning. A heavy mist clung to the sand as fishermen checked their nets. That's when they found him, 7-year-old George Pratt. The boy's tiny body was broken and bruised, his face torn and bleeding. Chunks of flesh had been bitten from his cheek and thigh. His skin was shredded by deep scratches, and tiny puncture wounds from pins and needles dotted his arms and legs. The savagery was beyond anything Chelsea had seen. Jesse had escalated. Now, it wasn't just about control or power. He was using his own body as a weapon, his teeth, his nails, his rage, and savoring every second of the terror he created. Police were stunned. Who could do this to a child? They had no idea this was the same attacker from Chelsea. In the 1870s, there were no connected databases, no radios, no way for neighboring districts to share leads. Jesse knew it, and he used that ignorance like a shield. On September 11, 1872, 7-year-old Joseph Kennedy was sent on an errand by his mother. He never made it home. Jesse had been watching Joseph for days, learning his route, timing his steps. That afternoon, he approached the boy with his usual practiced smile, his soft, quiet voice promising adventure. Greater than, "Come on, Joe, I found a cool spot down by the water. Just us. You'll love it." The cool spot was an old, empty boathouse near the salt marshes, remote, isolated, perfect. Jesse had prepared it days before, bringing rope, boards, and a knife he'd stolen. Inside, the violence was methodical. He slashed at Joseph's face with the blade, carving lines that would scar him forever. He forced the boy's head under the icy marsh water, again and again, holding him under until bubbles stopped rising, then yanking him back just before death could claim him. Every time Joseph gasped for air, Jesse watched, fascinated by the terror in the boy's eyes. This was a new level of control. A new level of evil. 6 days later, on September 17th, railway workers found 5-year-old Robert Gould tied to a telegraph post by the tracks. The boy was covered in bruises, deep cuts crisscrossing his skin. A jagged slash at his throat, shallow, but deep enough to show Jesse's intent. He'd meant to kill. Something, footsteps, a noise, had startled him before he could finish. Robert survived. Barely. And for the first time, Jesse had made a mistake. Robert Gould, trembling and terrified, gave police a description. Greater than a boy, not a man, brown hair, and one eye, one dead, cloudy, white eye. For the first time, law enforcement had something solid, a face to hunt. But South Boston was crowded, full of kids running errands, playing in the alleys, running wild in the streets. And in neighborhoods filled with immigrants who had every reason to distrust police, few were willing to talk. Jesse, meanwhile, grew bolder. He stayed longer with his victims. Left more evidence behind. Began believing he was untouchable. Then came September 20, 1872. A moment that would seal his fate. Jesse had been scouting the streets near South Boston's Police Station 6 when curiosity got the better of him. Peering through a window, he froze. Inside, sitting with officers, was Joseph Kennedy, his victim from the boathouse. The boy was trembling, tears streaking his face, describing the attack in halting, terrified whispers. And then Joseph looked up. And saw him. That white eye. That terrible, dead marble stare. The boy's scream split the air. Greater than, that's him. That's the boy. The marble eye. He's the one who hurt me. Chaos erupted. Officers stormed out of the building, surrounding the stunned 13-year-old before he could run. When they dragged him inside and confronted him, Jesse didn't beg. He didn't cry. He didn't even try to lie. Calmly, coldly, he confessed. Greater than, yes, I did it. One by one, the other survivors were brought in. One by one, they pointed to him. The boy with the marble eye. The monster in a child's body. The newspapers exploded with headlines. Greater than, boy torturer caught in South Boston. Crowds gathered outside the station, horrified parents desperate to catch a glimpse of the pale, quiet child who had terrorized their neighborhoods. On September 21, 1872, Jesse stood in juvenile court before Judge William Forsyth. The room was packed, reporters scribbling notes, mothers clutching handkerchiefs, fathers glaring at the small boy standing silently before them. Jesse showed no fear, no remorse. He described the attacks in chilling, flat detail, as if he were reciting the weather. Every word froze the blood of those listening. Judge Forsyth sentenced him to 6 years at the State Reform School for Boys in Westboro, the harshest penalty available for a juvenile. The city exhaled in relief. The monster was locked away. But what no one understood, not the police, not the judge, not even his own mother, was that Jesse wasn't done. The reform school wasn't going to change him. If anything, it would make him worse. Inside Westboro, Jesse played the perfect role. He sat through classes, did his chores, bowed his head in prayer during chapel. Staff praised him as a model student. Intelligent, polite. They didn't see that it was an act. That every smile, every nod, every, yes, sir, was a mask. Beneath it all, the darkness inside him grew sharper, colder, more patient. Jesse wasn't learning to be good. He was learning how to hide the evil better. And his mother, Ruth Ann. She was already planning how to bring him home. Next time, Part 4, Jesse walks free, and the murders begin. Part 4 Freedom becomes a new playground. 1878. Westboro Reform School, Massachusetts. 6 years behind bars, though they called it a reform school, had only polished Jesse Pomeroy, made him clever, calm, and more dangerous than when he started. Every passing day, the darkness inside him waited, learning to hide behind smiles and obedience. On the day of his release, Jesse walked out not as a reformed youth, but as a predator unmasked, ready to strike again. The gold mask. Jesse returned to Boston as someone nobody expected. The quiet boy from the reform school, released early because he behaved so well. Ruth Ann picked him up, her voice trembling between maternal pride and relief. He slipped back into South Boston's working-class streets, the same alleys, the same tenements he once stalked. Nobody asked questions. Stories change over time. Names are forgotten. The boy torturer was locked away, they believed. But the predator had returned. His eyes, one pale and glassy, the other sharp and calculating, slid across playgrounds. He watched. He listened. He planned. The playground game. Just 2 weeks after returning, Jesse spotted Mary Sullivan, 6 years old, playing hopscotch. The sidewalk was crowded, but Jesse knew how to slip closer without being noticed. "Wanna play a new game?" he asked, flashing a sweet, practiced smile. She hesitated as he knelt to her level, offering a flower he'd plucked. Mary accepted, curiosity lighting her face. It was a small seed, one more soft voice, one more gentle offer, and she would follow as so many had before. He led her down the lane to an old storage shed behind a row of tenements. A forgotten structure, cold, damp, and hidden. Exactly what he needed. Inside, the voice was gone. All that was left was the predator. Each scar a masterpiece. Jesse tied Mary's wrists with a length of twine he'd hidden in his coat. The flash of the white eye through her tears, locked and focused, sent euphoria straight to his core. He hesitated momentarily, just long enough to sense that old restraint forming again. Then it shattered. He used his teeth to tear at her arm. He carved symbols with a short razor blade he'd stolen from a cutler. He branded her skin with shapes only he understood. A deviled pentagon, a jagged spiral, emblems of his ownership. Mary cried silently, curled on the floor, sobs echoing off the rotten walls. It took every ounce of Jess's control not to crush her throat with his bare hands. But he held back, consciously this time. He dragged her to the corner of the shed and knelt beside her, breathing heavy. "Greater than, don't tell anyone," he whispered. "Or I'll come back." Then he left, walking out like a ghost into the chill night, leaving her with shame, scars, and a secret. Cracks in the calm. Over the next months, Jesse kept his distance, quiet, unseen. But horror always finds a way to the surface. March 6, 1879. Little Patrick O'Leary, 5 years old, disappeared on his way to school. His broken body was found later in a discreet backyard, his face pale with terror and punctured by pinpricks. No witnesses. No suspects. June 15. 2 girls, 8-year-old twins Lena and Nina Matthews, vanished while picking berries. Their jackets were found, stained and ragged, near an old quarry. They came back wounded and terrified. For the first time, the word, torture, was used in papers across the city. As the pattern stayed hidden from police, communities whispered. Some mothers said prayers, others vowed vengeance. But few connected the return of their monsters with the unseen boy in the street. A criminal's education. Meanwhile, Jesse kept himself hidden. He volunteered at small shops. He read books on anatomy and medicine. He studied criminal procedure. He watched trials through newspaper reports. He memorized interrogation techniques, criminal strategies, and how confessions were extracted. He wasn't obsessed with killing. He was obsessed with control, planning, and perfecting the dance between predator and prey. The whispered name. Late summer 1879, a local teacher, Ms. Adelaide Reed, noticed something chilling. Mary Sullivan had shown up in her class with strange, carved marks on her forearm. When asked about them, Mary froze, clamped her mouth shut. Ms. Reed pressed. Mary finally whispered. Greater than, the boy, the marble eye, he did this to me. The panic that set in among parents was immediate and explosive. Police combed the neighborhood, raising alarm. The name Jesse Pomeroy resurfaced, along with fear. A neighborhood meeting was held at a packed tenement hallway. Angry voices demanded protection. Some parents came with clubs. Others with lamps and candles, ready to hunt. But Jesse watched from the shadows. Hunted, yet untouchable. By autumn, the police were actively investigating. But records were muddled. Juvenile court documents were sealed. Reform school records were protected. And nobody believed a former juvenile offender could still be capable of such violence. He wore a new coat, his hair trimmed shorter. But that marble eye remained. Only Mary Sullivan, Patrick O'Leary, and the Matthews twins glared at him with recognition, each silently screaming, "That was him." Inside Jess's mind. At night, Jesse would lie awake in his tenement room, lit by a single lamp, staring at the scar on his hand, etched during the Sullivan attack. He thought about what he'd done. Felt no remorse. Instead, he felt clarity, a sense of his purpose, his superiority. Those 6 years in reform school had taught him 3 critical facts. 1. People believed in rehabilitation. 2. People believed children could change. 3. People refused to see evil in a face they trusted. All of which meant that Jesse, the child killer, could hide in plain sight, and no one would know. The coming storm. As winter 1879 approached, a hush fell over South Boston. Parents kept young ones indoors. Teachers tightened their escorts. Rumors spread like wildfire. And through it all, Jesse watched, patient, cold, and calculating. He understood something simple, but profound. No fear is greater than a fear you never see coming. Part 5. The night Boston stopped breathing. Boston, winter of 1879. The streets were quiet that night. Too quiet. Snow fell like ashes across South Boston, covering the alleyways, the frozen docks, the narrow slums where every shadow whispered Jesse Pomeroy's name. Parents barred their doors. Windows were nailed shut. Candles flickered behind drawn curtains, but no one dared step outside. Everyone knew. The boy fiend had returned. A new disappearance. It began on December 4, 1879, just after dusk. Katie Curran, a 10-year-old girl, left her house to buy sewing needles at a small corner shop. She never came back. The city erupted into chaos. Flyers went up. Neighbors scoured alleys with lanterns, calling her name until their voices cracked in the freezing air. By morning, her absence was a wound across South Boston. Mothers clutched their children tighter. Fathers formed search parties, combing every hidden corner, except one. A boarded-up basement beneath a forgotten old shop. The basement. Jesse knew that basement better than anyone. It was his hunting ground. Dark, damp, perfect. A narrow wooden staircase led down to stone floors that smelled of rotten mold. Rats darted in the corners, their tiny claws scratching against the walls. Katie trusted him. Why wouldn't she? He spoke softly, his voice calm, almost soothing. Greater than, "I know where the needles are," he said, leading her inside. "Come on, just a few steps." The door slammed behind her. The basement swallowed her screams. The ritual. Unlike his other victims, Katie didn't die quickly. Jesse was experimenting now, learning control, pushing boundaries. He bound her hands, gagged her with torn cloth, and carved small, careful patterns into her arms, chest, and cheeks. Every line, every wound was deliberate. A silent message only he understood. Katie's tears turned to silent sobs. Her breath came in ragged gasps as the room grew colder, darker. Jesse tilted his head, watching her eyes dim with terror. "Greater than, don't fight it," he whispered. "This is who you are now." Hours passed before the basement fell silent. The cover-up. When Katie didn't come home, her family went to the police. Officers searched every corner of South Boston, every alley, every abandoned shed. They questioned shopkeepers, dockworkers, neighbors. But Jesse was calm. He'd cleaned the basement, covered her body with broken crates and old sacks. The police never found her. Days turned into weeks. Her name faded from the headlines. But Jesse never forgot where she was. Fear spreads like fire. After Katie, the fear became unbearable. Children were forbidden to leave their homes. Schools half-emptied. Newspapers called the killer the Fiend of Boston. Every alley looked dangerous. Every stranger was a suspect. And still, Jesse roamed free. He watched the streets from the shadows, blending into the background, the quiet boy with mismatched eyes, polite and harmless, until he wasn't. The police close in. By early March of 1880, the city was unraveling. Reports of missing pets, mutilated animals, and strange attacks flooded police stations. Detective Thomas Brigham, a veteran officer hardened by years on the streets, began connecting the dots. Every lead pointed to one name: Jesse Pomeroy. Brigham remembered the boy from 6 years earlier, the marble-eyed child who'd left a trail of blood in his wake. And now, the killings were sharper, smarter, colder. Greater than, he's not just some troubled kid, Brigham told his partner. He's a predator, and he's getting better at it. The final act, March 18, 1880. Horace Millen, a 4-year-old boy, was playing outside near the docks when Jesse approached. The same calm smile, the same soft tone. Greater than, want to see a new kite I made? It's right over there. Horace followed, giggling, trusting, his small boots crunching through the thin crust of snow. Jesse led him to a secluded patch of marshland near the water. The city hummed faintly in the distance, but here it was silent, empty. There, under the pale glow of the winter sun, Jesse dropped the act. Horace's laughter died in his throat as Jesse grabbed him, pinning him down with terrifying precision. There was no hesitation this time. No restraint. The violence was fast, brutal, surgical. By the time Jesse left, Horace's small body was still and broken, his white scarf soaked in crimson. The arrest. It didn't take long for the city to explode. Witnesses had seen Jesse near the docks. Children whispered his name in terrified voices. Within hours, police stormed the streets. Detective Brigham found him at his home, sitting quietly in a chair, as if nothing had happened. Greater than, Jesse, Brigham said, voice steady but sharp, we need to talk. Jesse tilted his head, that strange, calm expression never leaving his face. Greater than, about what? He asked softly. Brigham cuffed him without another word. The entire neighborhood watched in silence as the marble-eyed boy was led away, snowflakes clinging to his black coat. The basement revealed. Under questioning, Jesse denied everything, at first. But his story cracked under pressure. When investigators searched the old shop basement, the stench of rot hit them like a wave. Beneath a pile of old boards and trash, they found Katie Curran's remains. Her body bore the same signature cuts and carvings, the same careful, deliberate patterns. The city of Boston erupted in grief and rage. The trial. The trial was a spectacle, the youngest accused serial killer in American history. Crowds lined the streets. Papers sold out every morning, headlines screaming, "The boy fiend exposed." Jesse sat in the courtroom, calm and expressionless, as witnesses described his horrors in chilling detail. When asked why he killed, Jesse simply said, "Greater than, I wanted to see what it felt like. And then I wanted more." The sentence. The jury took just hours to reach a verdict, guilty. The judge delivered the sentence with trembling hands, death by hanging. But public outcry over executing a teenager forced the governor to intervene. Jesse's sentence was commuted to life in solitary confinement. Boston holds its breath. As the cell door clanged shut, the city exhaled. Children played in the streets again. Mothers loosened their grip on their sons and daughters. But the scars never faded. In every alley, every shadow, the whispers lingered. Greater than, he's still alive, down there in the dark, waiting. Would you like me to continue with part 6, showing his years in solitary confinement and the chilling legends that grew around his name? Part 6: The Cell That Never Slept. Charlestown State Prison, 1880. The walls were thick, damp, and cold, the kind of cold that settled in your bones and never left. Rats scurried through cracks in the stone. Water dripped endlessly somewhere in the dark, a sound that gnawed at the edges of sanity. This was where Jesse Pomeroy, the boy fiend of Boston, would spend the rest of his life. A 10x 7-foot cell. No light, no color, no humanity. Just time, an endless, suffocating stretch of time. The guards thought that would break him. They were wrong. The first night, when the iron door slammed shut, Jesse didn't flinch. He simply sat on the narrow cot, staring at the wall with those pale, mismatched eyes. This isn't forever, he whispered to himself. Not for me. Hours turned into days. Days turned into weeks. At first, the guards said he barely moved, just sat there, silent, breathing slow and steady, like he was waiting. Whispers in the dark. By winter, strange things began to happen. Guards reported hearing voices in the cell at night. Low murmurs, like two people whispering, even though Jesse was alone. Sometimes, there was laughter, soft, childlike, but twisted. When they opened the door to check, Jesse would be sitting on his cot, hands folded, eyes calm. Talking to yourself again, Pomeroy. A guard sneered one night. Jesse tilted his head slowly. Not to myself, he said. They come to visit me. In the dark, the guard walked away, unsettled but unwilling to admit it. The experiments. Solitary confinement was supposed to crush him. Instead, Jesse thrived. He began to test his limits. Days without speaking, weeks without eating more than scraps. Holding his breath until he passed out, just to see how long he could push the edges of death. When a priest visited, offering to pray with him, Jesse smiled. Save it, he said. Hell isn't where I'm going. It's where I've been. The priest left pale and trembling. The dreams. By 1885, Jesse began describing dreams to the guards. Not normal dreams, visions. He claimed to see the faces of his victims, pale and glowing, pressed against the walls of his cell. He said they whispered secrets, begged him to join them. They don't forgive, Jesse told a young guard. But they're patient. They wait. When the guard laughed it off, Jesse leaned forward, eyes sharp and unblinking. Do you know what it's like to watch someone's last breath? He whispered. You can never unsee it. You can never stop wanting it. The guard requested a transfer the next morning. The decades pass. Time crawled. Years blurred into each other, but Jesse stayed the same. Unnagging. Untouched. The papers called him Boston's forgotten monster. Families of his victims petitioned to have him executed, but the state refused. And so he sat, alone, watching. By the early 1900s, some guards claimed he no longer blinked. His pale eyes glowed faintly in the dark, like something not entirely human anymore. The scratching. In 1914, an inmate in a nearby cell began screaming in the middle of the night. He's scratching the walls. The man cried. All night, scratching. Guards searched Jesse's cell. The stone walls were covered in strange marks, dozens of names carved deep into the surface. Every name belonged to someone who had gone missing in Boston in the decades since Jesse's imprisonment. When asked how he knew their names, Jesse smiled. They come to me, he said. They tell me their stories. And I write them down, so I won't forget. The legend grows. By the 1920s, Jesse was a ghost story whispered around Boston. Parents told their children about the marble-eyed boy in the cell who never slept, who never died. Some said his cell door rattled at night, as if someone, or something, was trying to get out. Others swore that if you stood near the solitary wing in the dead of night, you'd hear a child's voice singing a lullaby, soft and broken. The visitors. Occasionally, journalists or curious officials visited, hoping to get a glimpse of the infamous killer. Most left shaken. In 1932, a reporter from the Boston Herald described the encounter. He was old but ageless. His hair white as bone, but his eyes, God, his eyes. They didn't belong to any man. He smiled when I asked if he regretted what he had done. Regret, he whispered. No, not yet. Dash dash dash. The end that never came. Jesse should have died long before the Second World War. Malnutrition, disease, time itself, none of it touched him. Doctors were baffled, guards were terrified. By the 1940s, records show he barely spoke, but when he did, his words chilled the blood of anyone who heard them. Greater than, there's more work to do, he said one night. When the door opens, I'll finish what I started. Dash dash dash. The cell today. Jesse Pomeroy died, officially, in 1932, at the age of 72. At least, that's what the records say. But locals still whisper that his cell in Charlestown is wrong. Visitors say they hear scratching from the walls, or feel cold fingers brush their arms when they walk past. Some guards refuse to go near it, even now, decades after the prison closed. And sometimes, only sometimes, a low voice carries through the dark hallways, almost too soft to hear. Greater than, I'm still here, waiting. Part 7: The Awakening in Cell 13. Charlestown State Prison, present day. The prison had been abandoned for decades. The stone walls, slick with moss and rot, leaned inward like they were keeping a secret. Locals avoided it, whispering about Cell 13, Jesse Pomeroy's cell. But where fear thrives, so does curiosity. Dash dash dash. The team, okay, cameras rolling, said Tyler Marks, the charismatic leader of the paranormal investigation group Grave Signals. The crew of 4 moved cautiously through the crumbling hallways, their flashlights cutting thin beams through the dust. Tyler, the skeptic-turned-believer, chasing views and adrenaline. Renee, the medium, quiet but visibly tense the moment they entered. Chris, the sound guy, constantly muttering that this was a bad idea. Maya, the tech expert, clutching her EMF reader like a lifeline. This is where they kept him, Tyler said, his voice echoing. The boy fiend of Boston. 58 years in solitary. And legend says, he never left. Dash dash dash. The first sign, they reached the solitary wing. The temperature dropped instantly, from a humid summer night to something sharp and bone deep. Maya frowned, tapping the EMF reader. It's spiking. But, there's no power here. Nothing that could cause this. From the far end of the corridor came a sound. A soft, deliberate scratching. Renee froze, her eyes wide. He knows we're here, she whispered. You shouldn't have come. Tyler grinned for the camera, playing it up for the viewers. That, folks, is exactly what we came for. Dash dash dash. Cell 13. When they reached the infamous cell, the door hung open, rusted hinges groaning like something alive. Inside, the air was heavier, as if the room itself was breathing. The walls were covered in old carvings, names, dates, strange symbols. Chris swept his flashlight over them and went pale. These names, these are recent. Look, 2019, 2021, how the hell, kids sneaking in, Tyler said, but his voice lacked conviction. Renee stepped into the cell, trembling. This place is wrong, she murmured. He isn't trapped here, he's. The camera caught it. A shadow moving across the back wall, tall and thin, despite no one standing there. Dash dash dash. The recording. They set up the EVP recorder in the center of the cell, letting it run for several minutes while they stood in silence. When Maya played it back, the static cracked like broken glass. And then a voice. Low, male, clear, greater than, closer. Chris swore under his breath. Nope, nope, I'm out. This isn't worth the paycheck. But Tyler wouldn't leave. We stay. We need a full session. This is the best evidence we've ever had. Dash dash dash. The medium breaks. Renee backed into the corner, her hands clutching her ears. He's not human anymore, she whispered, rocking slightly. He's older, hungrier, and he knows your names. The scratching grew louder, faster, until it sounded like claws tearing through stone. Greater than screech, screech. Then, silence. Dash dash dash. The manifestation. The lights on the cameras flickered. The air turned suffocatingly cold. And then he was there. Not in full form, more like a distortion in reality. A tall, gaunt silhouette with those glowing, mismatched eyes cutting through the darkness. Tyler swallowed hard, still holding the camera. "Jesse, is that you?" A pause. Then, that same voice, now bone-chillingly close. "Greater than, you opened the door." Dash dash dash. The panic. The cell door slammed shut with a deafening clang. Chris lunged for it, pounding his fists against the iron. "It's locked. It's effing locked." Maya's equipment went haywire, the EMF reader screaming. Tyler turned the camera on himself, eyes wide. "This isn't a stunt," he whispered. "If anyone finds this footage, we didn't fake this. We didn't." A violent crash cut him off as something invisible hurled the tripod across the room. Dash dash dash. Renee's plea. Renee dropped to her knees, speaking into the void. "You don't have to do this," she begged. "Let us go. We're not here to hurt you." The response was immediate. "Greater than, stay, forever." Dash dash dash. The escape. Suddenly, the cell door creaked open on its own. "Move, move," Tyler screamed, shoving Renee out first. They sprinted down the corridor, the sound of footsteps, not theirs, pounding behind them, faster and faster, until it was deafening. When they burst through the main doors into the night air, the footsteps stopped. But the whisper followed. "Greater than, you'll be back." Dash dash dash. The footage aired a week later. Millions watched the episode, half convinced it was staged, half swearing they'd seen something real. But the strangest part, in the final frame, just as they fled, Cell 13's door slammed shut again. And in the corner of the screen, a pale, childlike face pressed against the bars, smiling. Dash dash dash. Aftermath. Within weeks, strange accidents plagued the team. Chris vanished without a trace during a road trip. Maya was found unconscious, muttering Jess's name over and over. Renee quit, refusing to talk about that night. Tyler. He went back. Alone. His live stream ended abruptly. The last thing viewers saw a shadow stepping into the frame and a soft, familiar whisper. Greater than, welcome home. Part 8. The Vanishing of Tyler Marks. Charlestown State Prison, 2 weeks later. The night air was sharp, thick with the scent of salt and rust from the nearby docks. The old prison loomed ahead, its broken windows like hollow eyes staring out at the darkness. Tyler Marks stood outside, his camera rig strapped to his chest, live stream running. Over 40,000 viewers watched in real time as he paced the cracked pavement, his breath uneven. Greater than, all right, guys, he whispered to the camera, forcing a grin. This is it, back where it started. No crew this time, just me, and him. Dash dash dash. The chat, comments flooded the screen. Bro, don't go in. This isn't a joke. We saw the face. We all saw it. Turn around now. But Tyler ignored them. He needed answers. He needed proof. Or maybe, deep down, he just wanted the thing inside Cell 13 to acknowledge him again. Dash dash dash. Crossing the threshold, the door groaned as he pushed it open. Dust and rot hit him in a wave, making him gag. His flashlight flickered, then steadied, cutting through the endless shadows. "All right, Jesse," Tyler said, his voice trembling despite his forced bravado. "You wanted me back. Here I am." The camera's mic picked up a faint scratching, somewhere deeper in the prison. Dash dash dash. Descending into darkness. Every step echoed like a gunshot. The deeper Tyler went, the colder it got. His breath became visible, small white clouds in the beam of his light. The viewers spammed the chat. "It's colder, he's close. Leave now. Something is following you." Then the stream lagged, just for a second, and a dark shape darted across the hallway behind him. Dash dash dash. Cell 13. The cell door was already open, just like last time. The air felt thick, almost alive. Symbols lined the walls in fresh scratches that hadn't been there 2 weeks ago. Tyler steadied the camera. "This is it," he whispered. Cell 13. Where Jesse Pomeroy? The door slammed shut behind him. Dash dash dash. The voice. Static hissed through the livestream. Then the voice. Low, cold, ancient. Greater than, welcome back, Tyler. The flashlight flickered violently. Tyler swung it toward the far corner of the cell, but nothing was there. Only darkness, thick and impenetrable. Greater than, you brought them, all of them, to me. His viewers flooded the chat, panic exploding across the stream. WHO is he talking to? Tyler, get out. The face. Behind you. The first attack. A violent crash shook the camera as Tyler was hurled against the wall. He screamed, the sound raw and guttural. The chat went wild. Then the audio cut out, replaced by a distorted, guttural sound, not quite a growl, not quite a laugh. When the sound returned, Tyler was sobbing. Why? He whispered. What do you want from me? The bargain. Greater than, stay, be mine, and they will live. The camera tilted, showing the cell walls again. The names were moving, as if carved by invisible hands, shifting into the names of the Grave Signals crew, Chris, Maya, Renee, greater than, leave, and they all die. Tyler, trembling, lifted the camera toward his own face. His eyes were hollow, wide with terror. I don't. The stream glitched again. For a single frozen frame, viewers saw him smiling, but the smile wasn't his. Static and screams. The feed erupted in static. Screams bled through the distortion, distant and inhuman, like multiple voices speaking at once. Then silence. The live stream timer kept running, but the video froze on Cell 13's empty doorway. After 3 minutes, the camera fell to the ground, lens cracked but still transmitting. In the very last frame, a pale hand dragged the camera into the darkness. The aftermath. The next morning, Boston police searched the prison. They found Tyler's equipment, camera, backpack, flashlight, but no sign of him. No footprints, no blood, no evidence of a struggle. Except for one thing. On the inside wall of Cell 13, freshly scratched into the stone, were 5 words. Greater than, welcome home, Tyler Marks. The curse spreads. A week later, strange things started happening to Tyler's audience. Viewers reported seeing flashes of movement in their homes while rewatching the stream. One woman from Ohio emailed the local news claiming the boy with mismatched eyes had appeared in her doorway at 3 a.m., whispering, "You watched." Another viewer live streamed herself burning her laptop. The final seconds of her video showed the reflection of Cell 13's bars in her kitchen window. Renee's warning. Renee, now pale and frail, released a statement. Greater than, he's not confined to that cell anymore. Watching makes you a part of it. Stop sharing the footage. Stop talking about it. The more you believe, the closer he gets. But the footage had already gone viral. Millions had seen it. Millions had invited him in. The final message. 3 days later, the Grave Signals YouTube channel posted one last video. No description, no thumbnail, just a black screen. Then, a whisper. Greater than, soon. The video abruptly ended. The account was deleted minutes later. Epilogue. The prison has since been sealed by the city, but that hasn't stopped thrill seekers from breaking in. 2 teens vanished last month after live streaming from the solitary wing. Their phone was found outside the gate, still recording, still streaming to thousands, but the screen was black, save for 2 glowing dots. Eyes. Watching. Waiting. Part 9. The Spreading. Boston. 3 weeks after the livestream. It started small. A flicker in the corner of someone's camera during a Zoom meeting. Strange, metallic whispers heard through headphones late at night. A face, pale, sharp, and wrong, appearing for less than a second in paused videos. People joked online. Jess's gone viral, they said. Memes spread faster than the warnings. But then the disappearances began. The first wave. The first to vanish was Leah Morgan, a college student from Chicago. She had tweeted a screenshot of Tyler's final livestream with the caption, "Greater than, watching this alone in the dark, lol, pray for me." The next morning, her roommate found her laptop open, the screen glowing with static. Her bed was untouched, her phone still charging by the nightstand. The only trace left was a faint scratch mark on the bedroom wall, a jagged X, carved deep into the plaster. 2 days later, a popular horror YouTuber vanished during a live Q&A. Thousands watched as the room behind him darkened unnaturally, shadows crawling up the walls like living vines. The last thing his audience heard was his strangled whisper. Greater than, he's here. Then static. Then silence. The investigation. Local police dismissed the incidents as hoaxes at first, until the footage was reviewed frame by frame. In every clip, the same figure appeared in the background. A young boy. Ragged clothes. One eye milky white, the other a deep, endless black. And always smiling. Renee's descent. Renee hadn't slept in days. Her apartment in Cambridge was dark, curtains drawn, mirrors covered. She had been drinking heavily, surviving on coffee and raw fear. On the walls, she'd taped printouts of Tyler's still frames, circles and arrows marking timestamps, desperately trying to make sense of the impossible. When her phone rang, she almost didn't answer. Renee, Maya's voice cracked through the static. It's not just us anymore. It's spreading, everywhere. Brazil, Japan, Germany, people are seeing him. Renee swallowed hard, her throat dry. Then it's too late, she whispered. He's not bound to the prison anymore. The live stream returns. At 3:33 a.m., a new live stream appeared on Tyler's abandoned channel. No description, no title, just a black screen. Within minutes, over 100,000 viewers were tuned in, comments exploding in real time. Greater than user_dead inside 88, is this real? Shadow Watcher. Guys, I swear something moved. Anon Ghost. Don't blink. Then the feed shifted. The camera was inside an unfamiliar house. Dark hallways. Family photos blurred, faces scratched out. Heavy breathing filled the audio. Then, the boy, standing in the hallway, staring. Help me, a distorted voice whispered, though no lips moved. Viewers reported nausea, migraines. One teenager in Toronto collapsed while watching, seizing violently as his parents screamed in the background. By morning, the video had disappeared, but not before it was copied, shared, and mirrored across every platform imaginable. The second wave. Disappearances spiked. Entire families gone overnight. In Detroit, a mother live streamed herself hiding in her basement as heavy footsteps echoed above her. Her final broadcast lasted 6 minutes and 43 seconds before cutting to static. When police arrived, the house was empty. No sign of forced entry. Just claw marks gouged into the ceiling, like something had crawled there. Renee's final warning. Desperate, Renee reached out to paranormal experts, priests, anyone who would listen. Most dismissed her as a conspiracy theorist. But one elderly priest from Salem finally agreed to meet. You've fed him, the priest said, eyes full of dread. Every view, every share, every whisper of his name. You've made him strong. What can we do? Renee begged. How do we stop him? The priest hesitated. You don't, he said. You survive, if you can. The mark. People started reporting the mark. At first, it appeared in dreams, a jagged X carved into walls, floors, even skin. Then it began showing up in real life. Carved into mirrors, burned into door frames, and always, the sound of scratching in the walls, as if something was trying to get in. The broadcast. One night, the signal hijacked television stations across the country. At 11:11 p.m., every channel, every single one, went black. Then static. Then Tyler's voice, distorted and hollow. Greater than, you watched. You followed. Now, you belong to him. The feed cut to live footage of empty streets, abandoned playgrounds, and darkened windows, except for the faint glow of two mismatched eyes in the distance. By morning, dozens more had vanished. Renee's last call. Maya found the voicemail 2 days later. Renee's voice was trembling, panicked. Greater than, he's here. Outside. I can hear him. The scratching, it's in the walls now. Don't look at him, Maya. Don't let him see your eyes. Once he sees you. A sharp crash echoed in the background. The line went dead. Police found Renee's apartment door wide open. The walls were covered in symbols, some carved so deep they exposed the wooden frame beneath the plaster. In the center of the living room, written in thick, dark strokes, was one word. Greater than, mine, dash dash dash. The silence before the storm. Now, entire neighborhoods are quiet. Curtains drawn, lights off. People whisper that if you stay silent, if you don't acknowledge him, you might be safe. But it's only a matter of time. Every night at 3:33 a.m., the scratching begins. And in the static between radio stations, if you listen closely, you can hear him whispering your name. Part 10. The last broadcast. New York City, 1 month later. The city that never sleeps is silent now. Abandoned cars litter the streets. Billboards flicker with static. The subways are flooded, tunnels echoing with something that isn't water. Those who remain keep to the shadows, whispering rules to each other like prayers. Don't answer the whispers. Don't look at the screens. Don't say his name. But the rules don't work anymore. Not really. Not when he's everywhere. Dash dash dash. The collapse. The night the signal hit every phone, every tablet, every smart TV, the world changed. It started with a tone, sharp enough to make dogs howl and windows tremble. Then came the voice, low, distorted, bleeding through every speaker. Greater than, I see you. Screens flickered to life, showing places no one recognized, empty roads, rusted playground swings, houses that seemed alive with movement just out of frame. Those who looked too long, vanished. Some collapsed where they stood, bodies hollowed, eyes staring at nothing. Others simply stepped away, walking calmly into the darkness until they were gone. Dash dash dash. Maya's search. Maya had been running for days, exhaustion carving deep shadows under her eyes. She carried only a flashlight, a backpack, and an old tape recorder. Her mission was simple, though hopeless: find Renee. She clung to the voicemail, replaying it over and over, even as static slowly warped the recording into something unrecognizable. Sometimes, in the static, she swore she could hear Renee whispering. Greater than, behind you. Dash dash dash. The broadcast center. She found it in the ruins of an old television station on the outskirts of Boston. The place was dead quiet, equipment long abandoned. But in the control room, the monitors still flickered, showing live feeds of cities across the globe. London, empty streets. Tokyo, shadows flitting across high-rise windows. Sao Paulo, playground swings swaying though no wind blew. And then, on the largest screen, she saw him. The boy, standing in the center of Times Square, his mismatched eyes glowing like coals in the darkness. Dash dash dash. The encounter. She should have run. Every nerve screamed at her to run. But instead, Maya stepped closer to the screen, her hands trembling. Renee, she whispered, please, tell me where you are. The boy tilted his head, his smile slow and deliberate. The static deepened, filling the room like a physical thing. Then, in a voice that was both Tyler's and not Tyler's, he spoke. Greater than, she's with me. Maya's breath caught. Let her go. The boy blinked, almost curiously. Then the monitors around her erupted, flashing images so fast they blurred. Screaming faces, walls covered in claw marks, hands pressed against glass from the inside. And then, Renee, her face pale, her eyes wide, standing in a dark room Maya didn't recognize. Don't come, Renee whispered, her voice breaking. It's too late. The feed cut to black. Dash dash dash. The mark spreads. Outside, the city pulsed with unnatural energy. Buildings bore the mark now, the jagged X, carved into concrete and steel. Some pulsed faintly, as if alive, throbbing in rhythm with something deep beneath the earth. People whispered that the world itself was infected. That reality had grown thin, stretched like plastic ready to tear. Dash dash dash. The last frequency. At exactly 3:33 a.m., every device on Earth came alive. Phones, radios, billboards, airplane screens on grounded jets. Even dead batteries flared to life. This time, there was no static. No distortion. Just a voice, calm and patient. Greater than, you invited me in. You wanted to see. Now, you will never look away. The message repeated for exactly 7 minutes. Then the world went silent. Dash dash dash. Maya's final stand. Maya barricaded herself in the basement of the station, surrounded by old broadcast tapes and backup generators. She hit record on her tape player, her voice shaking as she spoke. If anyone hears this, if anyone is still alive, don't watch. Don't listen. Burn your screens. Smash your phones. He's not just coming, he's already here. Something scraped along the concrete above her. Closer. She gripped the recorder tighter, whispering into the mic. I can hear him. He knows my name now. If this is the last thing you hear, remember us. Remember we tried to warn you. The recording ended with a soft click, and a long, high-pitched tone. Dash dash dash. The quiet. Weeks passed. Or maybe days. Time doesn't matter anymore. Cities are empty, overgrown. Nature is reclaiming the streets, but even the animals seem to know. They stay away from the buildings with the marks. The nights are longer now. The stars don't look the same. And if you listen carefully, between the rustle of leaves and the hum of the wind, you'll hear it. The static. Always the static. Dash dash dash. The final broadcast. Somewhere, deep in the ruins of the station, the monitors still glow. The feed is live. The boy stands in a field of television screens, smiling, tilting his head like a curious predator. His voice is clear, sharp, and endless as it bleeds across every frequency, every device, every dream. Greater than, it's my world now. Then the screens go dark. For a moment, there's nothing. No sound, no static, just silence. Until, in that unbearable quiet, a whisper cuts through. Greater than, look behind you. Dash dash dash. And then, blackness. Forever. Loudspeaker call to action. If you enjoyed this terrifying journey, don't forget to bell subscribe, be the first to know when the next chilling tale drops. Thumbs up, like and share, spread the horror with friends who love a good scare. Speech balloon comment below, what was your scariest moment in the story? Who do you think survives, if anyone? Ghosts, stay tuned, the darkness is never truly gone. More horror is coming soon.